$20 million to $50 million in liquid assets. This is where wealth stops being about money and starts being about infrastructure. You're not just rich anymore. You're now living a life which can require building systems. And here's something not many people speak about. This level of wealth can probably solve any financial problem you've ever had. Literally every single one. But it can also create operational complexity that many people have not anticipated. So today, I'm going to walk you through exactly what this level of wealth feels like, what it unlocks, in addition to the potential problems that don't necessarily show up in the balance sheet. We're also going to discuss why some people feel an immense amount of stress, even more so when they hit a level of wealth at $30 million or more, as opposed to where they were when they were at $3 million in assets. And here's what I want you to know. If you're approaching this threshold, it is critical to understand what you're building towards. And if you've recently crossed it, you're probably realizing it's not exactly what you expected it to be. Because here, money is no longer the variable. You're actually managing something completely different in life. And if you don't see this shift coming, you could end up building wealth that creates nothing more than complexity and headaches. So let's break this down and start with the numbers. At $20 million in liquid assets, at a conservative withdrawal rate of 4%, you have approximately $800,000 in spending power per year. At $30 million in liquid assets, you're looking at an annual spend of about $1.2 million. And at $50 million in assets, that number jumps up to about $2 million annually. These are extraordinary numbers. They can certainly be life-changing. But here's what I've learned in working with families at this level of wealth. The shift is not about the withdrawal rate. The real shift is at this level, you'll more than likely never have to do anything you don't want to do ever again. Think about that for a second. Cooking, you can have someone handle that for you. Cleaning and home maintenance, the staff takes care of it. Travel planning, coordinated. Waiting in line at the airport, there are solutions for that as well. You literally never have to do another tedious task again. But here's what so many don't realize. If you're below $20 million in liquid assets, you're probably still managing your own life. Above $20 million in liquid assets, and you're managing those who are managing your life for you. And that shift, in my opinion, can be quite profound. Because you're not just delegating tasks anymore. You're delegating the management of tasks. You're building a system. And systems require oversight, direction, and leadership. You've gone from simply being the operator to essentially being the CEO of your own life. And truth be told, not everybody's ready for that role. So what changes when you get to this level? What unlocks? Let me show you. First, complete task elimination. And I don't just mean you can afford help. I mean you can eliminate entire categories of tasks from your life permanently. Whether it be groceries, or laundry, taking care of the vehicles, or planning out your calendar. In doing so, you're able to wake up each day, and those tasks that used to consume endless hours of your time no longer exist. That's not just convenience. That's time freedom. Second, generational impact. This is a level where you can change the entire trajectory of your family for generations to come. Your children's education, fully handled. Any school, any degree, any pursuit that they want to follow. Your grandkids' education, same thing, already handled. You're even able to bail family members out of emergencies without thinking twice. Your sister's struggling financially, and you can solve that. Your parents need medical care, you can get them what they need. You essentially become the safety net for everyone you love, and that is a different level of wealth. Third, lifestyle elements that genuinely matter. And I'm not talking about showing off. I'm talking about removing friction from your life. Multiple homes, they're operating efficiently and effectively without you having any knowledge of what's going on in the background. Travel becomes frictionless. No more coordinating flights, ground transportation, and hotels. Healthcare access anywhere in the world. The best specialists, no waiting. Truth be told, you'll probably never have to wait for anything after you reach this level of wealth ever again. And time here becomes your most valuable asset. But here's the unlock that I've seen surprise so many. At this level of wealth, you're able to be incredibly generous without having any negative impact on your life. Your former employee who helped you build the business wants to send their daughter to medical school but can't foot the bill. Not a problem. You take care of the tuition. Your parents' best friends are losing their home over a medical crisis. Not an issue. You step in and you handle it quietly. The local organization doing incredible work for your community needs a new facility, and you can take care of it in a single gift. This is a level where you can become a serious force in other people's lives. And where having that level of generosity does not include sacrifice or calculation. When it all boils down to it, you just simply help. And that might be the most powerful unlock of them all. But here's what people don't tell you, and this is critical. You're managing complexity now. You have multiple properties? Well, they need oversight. Staff dynamics. You're hiring, sometimes even firing, or dealing with HR issues that you never thought about before. Maybe you've built a family office, and now you're managing that operation. More accounts, more entities, and more moving parts. And here's the thing about delegation. Someone still needs to lead the charge. Staff still needs direction, and sometimes even help making decisions. You're still planning, you're still deciding, you're just operating at a different altitude. And the problems you're solving for are completely different than those that you were handling when you had $3 million in assets. At $3 million, your biggest problem was more than likely, can I afford this? At $30 million, your biggest problem is more than likely, who's managing this for me and can I trust them? The stress doesn't disappear. It just takes a different form. And in actuality, this new form can be much more stressful and difficult for many. And what I mean by that is decision fatigue becomes real at this level. With more options comes more decisions. Every investment opportunity finds you now. Every charity wants your support. Every family member has a request, and every advisor has a pitch. And learning to say no, when you've more than likely been saying yes this entire time, becomes a real skill. Because the reality is, you probably can say yes to all of these things, but should you? And that is the question that keeps so many up at night. And here's what makes it harder. The stakes feel higher. Not financially, because when it comes to money, you're okay now, but relationally and emotionally. Because saying no to friends and family can be quite difficult. Saying no to a friend's business opportunity, even when you have the capital, can put a strain on the relationship. Saying no to a board position or charitable role, when you have the time or resources, can require clarity about your priorities. Building this level of wealth solved all your money problems, but it also potentially created complexity that you didn't have before. So if this level does create all the complexity, why are there some families that thrive while others struggle? Because of this pattern I see all too often. Somebody hits $25 million in liquid net worth, and they buy a second home or a third, which to them is affordable and could make sense. Then they hire staff, which can also be helpful. Then they get pulled into private deals, whether it be investing alongside friends or opportunities in alternatives being pitched by advisors. And before they know it, they're managing what feels like a small corporation, which is ironic because they built the wealth in the first place to get away from managing a corporation. Now, not only are they running one, it's actually an unpaid job. And this happens over and over again, because with more wealth typically comes more opportunity. Whether it be the fear of missing out, because your peers are doing deals and you feel you should be chasing the same thing, or social pressure, constantly hearing that sophisticated investors do complex things. But what I will tell you, and I feel very strongly about, is that when advisors pitch complexity or sizzle, it's often where they make the most fees. So through all this, your portfolio gets complicated, your real estate holdings expand, and your commitments multiply. And your cost here? Your time. Because you're managing these commitments, you're reviewing your portfolio performance, and you're tracking metrics associated with all of these things. Your mental energy dwindles, because now you're worrying about illiquidity, or partnership dynamics, or manager performance. And the simplicity is gone, because you've built complexity that now requires your management. So I caution against being the person that built wealth over the course of the last 30 years, who then spends the next 10 years managing that wealth, essentially losing the freedom and flexibility you worked so hard to build in the first place. And although that is a very common trap, it doesn't have to be that way. Because families who thrive at this level, they do something differently. They don't see more wealth as permission to add more. They see it as permission to eliminate, to simplify, to focus, and to hone in on what's important to them. And that shift, right there, changes everything. So let me show you what I'm talking about. First, they simplify aggressively. Fewer deals, fewer advisors, fewer properties, fewer commitments. This is because they know that complexity is the enemy of freedom. Second, they build systems that run without them. And that's critical. They create a single point of contact for everything. Maybe, if it's justified, that involves building out a family office. Or Maybe it's an outsourced chief operating officer for their life. Regardless, everything is delegated and nothing requires their daily input. Third, they protect their time ruthlessly. They say no to pretty much everything. They only say yes to the things that inspire and energize them. At this level, time is more valuable than incremental returns, and they fully understand that. An extra $1 million at this level doesn't change your life, but an extra few hundred hours with your grandchildren can. Fourth, they focus on people, not things, because relationships are the real asset here. Not the homes, not the portfolios, not the toys. Spending time and experiences with those they love. I like to think of it this way. Generosity creates meaning in a way that accumulation never will. And legacy is not something that you leave. It's something that you live. Fifth, they get clear on what enough looks like at this level. Similarly to how we spoke about this between $5 million to $15 million in liquid assets, at $25 million and above, you still need to define your number. What's enough when it comes to spending? What's enough when it comes to your lifestyle? Say your number is $1.5 million per year. Spend that $1.5 million, enjoy the heck out of it, and live your life. But stop there. The folks that thrive at this level aren't chasing more lifestyle because they've defined what enough is for them. And they also understand this key, which I want to emphasize. The move from $5 million in liquid assets to $50 million in liquid assets doesn't necessarily make you more happy. There's actually a point, which I've observed multiple times, somewhere between about $30 to $50 million, where more zeros does not equate to more happiness. It doesn't subtract from it, but it doesn't add to satisfaction either. I've actually seen people with $30 million more happy than someone with $100 million. And what's the difference, you might ask? The family at $30 million simplified things, while the family at $100 million continued to add to the complexity. So if you're at this level or approaching it, here's a question to ask yourself. Not, how do I get to $100 million? Because you might, but you might not. But rather, what does a rich life look like at $30 million? Because you already have enough. And are you using that money to build freedom and flexibility? Or are you using it to arbitrarily build the complexity that you were trying to escape? Families who thrive here make decisions with intention. They simplify, they focus, and they protect what matters most to them. They wake up every day feeling grateful, abundant, and alive. And if you're trying to figure out what the best level for you to reach is, check out our next video here.